Hi, I am new on this whole BookTube thing, and even though I don't really like being called a booktuber, I think that is what I'm gonna be, since I'm gonna talk about books and stories and mythology and so on and so forth. So I figured I might as well just do the BookTube tag, newbie tag. So let's get to it. The first one is, why did you start this channel? Because all of my friends don't read. My friends don't read, and no one is really reading anymore. Literacy rates are plummeting down, and especially men, young men, guys, the boys, my faction is not reading at all, or not reading at all, and I think that's a shame. Uh, because reading is a fantastic pastime, and I want to share my love of reading, so hopefully inspire other people to pick up a book and read instead of scrolling your life away on your phone. That sounded very judgmental. I apologize for that. Number 2, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to BookTube? Well, I'm glad you asked. No one in particular. I don't know. I mean, the way I see it, you have the entertaining people who talk about the book in an entertaining way, but they're kind of shallow. They don't talk about themes, or they don't go into the dough of the book's core of what is great about it. It's very shallow, but it's entertaining. And you have the more deeper thinker types who are boring and not interesting at all to listen to. So I'm hoping that I can, breach the gap and be like a little bit deeper, still talking about what I deem to be deep themes, but in an entertaining way, right? And hopefully I'll end up as the best of both worlds, instead of clearly the worst. We'll just have to see. What are you most excited for about this new channel? Getting to improve on different skills such as video editing, framing, videography, talking to a camera like I'm doing right now, practicing speaking to a camera, which is jarring as hell. So improving skills like those, I feel, are the primary reason I'm doing it. But I also want to I would love to have to get a little community of people who just likes to read, and because as I said, I have a lot of friends. I'm not one of those guys, but they don't read. People don't read, and even if they do, I live in freaking Denmark because I'm Danish, right? So not that surprising. But here, crime is the genre. The genre. Crime is so prevalent here. And I don't really like it. I don't really like it. The Scandinavian crime, and I'm not gonna lie, even though I read a lot of horror, Scandinavian crime is horrific, man. It is the most disturbing murders. Like, oh, she got found with a bowling ball shoved down her throat and then forced to roll a strike. Okay, maybe not. Maybe not that grotesque. Why do you love reading? I love reading because I'm just a naturally curious person who likes to gather a lot of information and wonder, why is stuff like this? Let me explore that, or let me think more deeply about this. Also, I'm really, really, really into storytelling. And I have been a movie buff my entire life, right? I'm a real cinephile, uh, to be fair. So I already have this great love of storytelling. And what book or series got you into reading? See, I started reading comics, right? So my origin story is I read a lot of comics, specifically DC, specifically superhero. Uh, so I read a lot of Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, you name it. Those guys, right? Green Lantern, Flash, DC. Um, and then I started getting more into serious comics, like Watchmen or V for Vendetta, like those, like the good comics that are actually graphic novels, that are actually great pieces of work. And I just fell in love with Sandman, Neil Gaiman's Sandman. And I know Neil Gaiman is a controversial figure, but I'm talking about the work, the art, not the artist. So I read Sandman and I was blown away. It was structurally interesting. It had the black speech bubble with the white text whenever Morpheus was talking. Oh my days! I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And so I learned he wrote books too. I was like, well, I like Sandman so much, I might as well read a real book. So I read Neverwhere. Also read Dragon Ball when I was a kid, before I read like DC Comics. But I don't know if that's hot takes, since Dragon Ball is basically people powering up for 9 chapters and then talk a little bit and then fighting. Also, the best fight in Dragon Ball history is Goku versus Piccolo. Agree? What question would you ask your favorite booktubers? Are you okay? Do you need a hug? Those are the 2 things I feel everyone, regardless of who you are, should be asked from time to time. I know it's savvy as all hell, like but it is such a polarized world. Everything is so serious all the time, and people really do be needing a hug because life is hard. Life is so difficult, man. And I'm here for you. Just know that. What challenges do you think starting a BookTube channel will be the hardest to overcome? Well, right now it's probably speaking to a camera, which I'm not used to. I mean, speaking with myself is probably my favorite pastime. Speaking to others is a close second. But speaking to this camera right now is kind of jarring. But I'm kind of warming up to it. It's fine. It's good. Also, I feel like I'm talking to a person right now, not a camera. Does that make sense? The hardest challenge is probably, I don't know if you realize this, but I have a bit of an accent. And the hardest part is probably going to be watching myself back and be like, his accent is thick, man. It's not thick when I speak, but it's thick when I hear it. So the biggest challenge is probably going to be that. I will try to enunciate the words more. I don't know if this will help me, but that's probably going to be the hardest thing. Also, I really am an ambitious person, so I kind of want to do editing. I want to be very good at editing, do very crazy stuff and graphics and everything, and I just am just a little bit. I have a little bit too high of expectations of myself, and I'm a chronic overthinker. Those are my biggest weaknesses in life. And it's probably, if I know myself right, and I should, I've known myself my whole life, it's going to be a problem. Not a problem. It's going to be a challenge when making videos too. But I'm ready to overcome it, which is why I'm filming this and slapping it on YouTube. When did you start reading? As I said, I actually started reading late. My dad always read a lot, and I was very not drawn to, and he took me to the library, but I never got to it, man. But as I said, I read Dragon Ball, but that's a lot of fighting. I read Dragon Ball when I was a kid, but that's a lot of fighting, and there's not a lot of text. I'm not gonna lie, and I skipped a lot of the text because I wanted to see the fighting. But I started years ago, 10 years ago maybe, when I was like 20 something, and again, it started with I just naturally grew from, as a teen, was into comics, into books, as I said before, and then I just started, and so I don't have the vast knowledge that people have, like people who start as a kid. It's like, oh, I read all this when I was a kid, and just maybe that's why I'm slower at reading, even though I'm probably perfectly average in terms of reading speed. But it is what it is. Where do you read? Where do I read? Where do I read? At a table. I like reading difficult things at a table, right? And preferably like an uncomfortable chair. And I prefer a very strict lady with a big stick hitting me in the head every time I make a mistake. I also like reading in bed. Actually, I don't like reading in bed because I will always fall asleep. It's very jarring. So I guess on the couch is the thing. I think I prefer reading lying down. Yeah, I guess that's. And I prefer quiet, or maybe background noise. I actually prefer quiet. That's why I don't read in public. I get distracted too much. I can't even listen to another thing. I can't write or read anywhere near a window because I will just stare out the window for hours, just chilling with my own thoughts, which is kind of a superpower, but also totally useless. What kind of books do you like to read? I like to read fiction and nonfiction. The two only genres. In terms of nonfiction, I like to read something that broadens my horizon a bit, but is not self-help. I think self-help is a bit of a scam. Um, I like philosophy in theory, but reading philosophy is the worst thing in existence, right? So I've tried reading philosophy. I like reading psychology, sociology, something that where I can kind of feel like I understand my fellow human being and the society we live in, and everything that's wrong with it, everything that's good about it, which is fewer and fewer things. In terms of fiction, I like reading Stephen King, of course, because everyone loves reading Stephen King. I like horror, but I like writing horror more than I like reading it, I feel. My big thing is fantasy. I'm a big fantasy guy. And when I started reading, I actually didn't know where to start, and I saw a lot of different suggestions as where to start with fantasy. And looking back, they're all complete horrible stuff. So I'm gonna make some better suggestions in upcoming videos for where to start as a fantasy writer, a new fantasy reader. But other than fantasy, I try to branch out. I like reading surreal stuff. I'm trying to getting into like contemporary stuff, drama. I'm not big on historical fiction yet, but I haven't really tried it out. I'm open to every genre, basically, but I'm probably mainly going to be talking about fantasy because I feel like fantasy incorporates everything. Like you can have like the best love story in the world within fantasy, and there's also a dragon, which I find to be endlessly interesting. I'm also an aspiring writer, so I like to read a lot of fantasy because I'm writing fantasy, and I'm also writing horror. So I like reading horror. So I love to broaden my horizon in that sense, but I also find a lot of inspiration in other genres and other mediums and other voices than my own. What does your book collection look like? I mean, I have Madison over there next to my skull, behind my skull. I have Madison here, my favorite series. Spoiler alert for an upcoming video. I have some nonfiction books down here. I have Song of Ice and Fire down here as well. I don't really have a big collection. I have more books than other places. I'm not really big on collecting books. I do the thing that is crazy, and I'm gonna whisper it to you, right? I borrow them from the library, so I don't have to pay money, but I can still read the words. That's interesting, isn't it? I also have a Kindle, where a lot of books are on, and I just find it convenient to have everything, to not have so many books lying around. I know people really like collecting books, and it looks fine with the spines and all that over here, but it's not really me. And I'm not gonna make a judgment call and talk about consumerism and BookTube and book talk, as it's called, but I don't like having a lot of books lying around. Um, I like having it on e-reader, and I like borrowing it on the library, so I can return it if I don't like it too, and so I don't feel like I have to finish it, so I don't waste my time, my precious, precious time reading books I don't enjoy. So that's it for the newbie tag. Thanks. I guess it was fun. I guess I'll see you in the next video. That sounds stupid. I need to figure out a proper outro here. Right? So now I'm just gonna say bye. Bye.